Hey guys, this is Andreas with Nothing But Tablets, and welcome to episode 2 of the Android screencast. Today I'm going to cover a subject that is so difficult to approach because it's one of the most complex, if not the most complex, things to cover on all of Android, and that is launcher customization, customizing your home screen and things like that. Uh, by complex, I don't mean that it's difficult necessarily. It's just that there are so many ways of doing this that it's to cover all of it is just such an epic task. Um, so, just a short disclaimer before I start. This is going to be quick, very basic. It's going to skip a lot of important things. And it's also going to be based on a single launcher, and that's simply because if I were to try to explain this in as much detail as I would like, this episode would actually be about 10 episodes of 1 hour each, and no, I'm not kidding, that's as much time as I would need to explain everything in just enough detail. So, um, another thing before I start, if you want to be better at customizing your launcher, my advice is to go to xdadevelopers.com, the forums, find threads about devices similar to yours where people show off their home screens. Normally called something like show off your home screen or show off your desktop or screenshots or something like that. That's very useful when you're sitting there and need ideas, because that gives you screenshots showing you what other people have done, as well as names of widgets and things like that. So if that's basically the key to learning this on your own. But I'm going to give you a very basic tutorial that should help you get started just with the concept of launcher customization. Okay, so I'm going to be doing this in 3 or 4 or something like that parts. First off, I'm going to cover shortcuts. Shortcuts are icons that are basically icons. They're one by one icons in size. You see a lot of them. Oops. You see a lot of them on the bottom row there. Icons are normally shortcuts to applications, but not necessarily. If they are shortcuts to applications, they're not the applications themselves. So if you delete a shortcut, you're not actually deleting the application or uninstalling it rather. Um, a lot of launchers, a lot of third-party launchers at least, and also stock launcher from Android 4.0 and, well, that's the latest version, allow you to create folders simply by taking one icon and dragging on top of another, in theory anyways. There we go. Yeah, okay. So then you get these folders and you can organize your icons like that. And also different launchers allow you to change settings that control how large an icon is. The label, which is basically text underneath, it can say different things and be different colors and all sort of things. But applications icons is not actually the only thing you can use this for, because a lot of launchers, including this one, has something that they can't seem to agree on a name for. In Go Launcher it's called shortcuts, in AW it's called actions. It probably has different names in even more launchers. But basically what that is the ability to add a shortcut to something that isn't an application directly. Examples include, going from the top here, Aldico allows you to, that's an ebook reader by the way, it allows you to create a shortcut to a book instead of the application itself. You can have a you can have a shortcut to a bookmark on the web, or a contact. I use that a lot on my smartphone. I don't go into the phone app, I just click the shortcut on in a folder called phone, and it calls the person. Directions and navigation, Dropbox folder that will, if for instance you have a lot of photos in one specific Dropbox folder, you can add a shortcut that says photos to your home screen, and it will take you directly to that folder. And games and wallpapers and all sort of things. So just to take one example, down here in the bottom right, I have an icon that says Star Trek Typhon Pact. Part of it is cut off. That's actually a shortcut to a book inside Aldeco. So while the application shortcut itself brings me into the book reader's main view with settings and files and store and all sorts of things, this icon down to the bottom right skips all of that and just brings me directly into the book. So what you can do with that basically depends on which apps you have installed and what launcher you have and all that sort of thing. As for the difference between launchers and between icons and widgets, icons all adhere to the same rules, so they sort of look the same. They're always one by one, and you can also actually change, in many launchers you can change the icon either to an icon that came with a theme or to a custom icon, so you could put a picture of your dog there or something like that. So yeah, that's icons and shortcuts, or whatever you want to call them. So next up we have widgets. Widgets are sort of applications that run on the home screen itself. You can see 3 of them right now. Audible, one that says Pink Floyd, and playlist is empty. Widgets are, well, basically widgets can do a lot of things. Common features include showing you information. By information I mean everything from emails and text messages to pictures of your dog or RSS feeds or news or anything like that. The other main type are widgets that control something, like an app. These 3 widgets are that type of widgets. These are audio player controlled widgets that came with the respective apps. The one over here to the far left is for Power Amp, which is a music player. This one up here is for Audible, which is a audiobook player. This one down here is for I don't remember the name of the app. It's something pod something. It's a podcast widget. Beyond Pod it's called. So basically those would allow me to start playing something. Don't be annoying. Start playing something right there, and I hate these programs that won't go away. Then continue controlling it from the widgets. That's very useful. Basically allows you to control things like music right there from the home screen. Other examples, this is the YouTube widget. Just shows me my subscription videos. There seems to be some sort of bug with it, or the launcher or something like that. But basically you can go through your subscriptions. Just to take a quick look at my list of widgets based on the applications that I have installed. You have a lot of clocks and weather widgets, some that allow me to display things like Facebook and messaging and Google Reader, things like that. Clocks, more clocks. Shortcut to notes, one that enables the flashlight. Twitters, all sorts of things. So again, which widgets you want to use totally depend on what kind of uses you have for your tablet. As for what you can do with them in terms of resizing them, resizing widgets is something that not all launchers allow. Some of them do. Some of them allow you to resize within the parameters of the widgets, and others, like GoLauncher, allows you to resize them completely. So if I deny this any more space than one icon spot, then it's basically going to be useless, but at least it allows me to choose that myself, so it doesn't deny me resizing it to a point where it gets cut off. So resizing widgets and placing them all over the place is basically the main way you would make the home screen your own. There are widgets that do some of the same things that shortcuts do, both in terms of widgets that are actually application shortcuts, and also widgets that give you folders. That's useful if you don't like how folders look on the launcher you have, or if you have a launcher that doesn't support folders, or if you switch between launchers so often that you don't want to use any folder systems that are native to the launcher. Instead, you want to be able to bring the entire folder with you over to another launcher. So that's a quick look at widgets. Next up, wallpaper. Wallpaper on Android basically comes in two different types: live wallpaper and normal wallpaper. Normal wallpaper are just, well, they're just that. They're wallpaper images that you put behind everything else. One thing to be aware of with Android is that in order to be usable in both portrait mode and landscape mode, as well as allow you to scroll between screens and have the wallpaper move, it actually forces you to use this template thing to crop the image, and you can get around this with some live wallpaper apps like multi-picture live wallpaper. But other than that, you're basically just stuck with having to crop your wallpapers, which is extremely annoying because, well, you might find a wallpaper that is at a higher resolution than the screen, and then it turns out that once you've cropped it, it sort of looks out of place or whatever. The other type of wallpaper are live wallpaper, which are basically wallpapers that move. Some of them can be touched and interacted with. Asus has one that it ships with some tablets. It basically has water, and if you twist and turn the tablet, the water will always stay level. It will drain as you drain the battery and bubble back up when you charge it. There's also some ponds where you can touch the water to create ripples, but basically live wallpaper like that use an insane amount of battery life and can also affect performance. But this is a fairly typical live wallpaper that isn't interactive, but it does move and it does look quite nice, and just having the effect of the sky moving and the trees moving in the wind is also quite nice. But you have to decide for yourself whether or not it's something you're willing to sacrifice battery life and um, perhaps performance for it. That last part basically depends on how fast your device is. As for me, I'm not willing to do it, so I'm just going to switch back to my original wallpaper before I proceed. And then let's take a look at themes, which is a fairly common thing to have in launchers. Themes are basically these one-click methods of changing your icons and your wallpaper so that they match, at least to some degree. If I go into themes here, as I said, it depends on your launcher whether or not it supports it at all, but let's pick one example if I can find any. Just let's pick that one and see what that does. So downloading a theme basically replace the icons you have, and on a phone it would almost automatically make your phone look something along the lines of this. And I mean, if you don't have the time or the energy or whatever to sit down and do it all yourself, then a theme is a very simple way that you can get some customization without actually spending too much time on it. The downside is that a lot of these themes come with icons for common apps like Facebook and Gmail and the browser, but they don't come with icons for things like the Aldico ebook reader or whatever I have in here. Well, yeah, there's a lot of stuff here. So you might end up with don't icons that have been replaced with new icons, and then others that haven't, because those icons aren't included um, in the theme. But anyways, it's still a nice way to do it, and themes can also be used as sort of a launching point. You use a theme and then you find the last few icons on your own and try to find something that matches. But yeah. Okay, so then finally let's take a look at some common settings in launchers. Perhaps the most common one, or I wouldn't say common in that it's available in all launchers, but it's perhaps one of the most used features when it is available, and that's the ability to change the layout of your home screen. So you can take this one and move it down here, or delete or add new home screens, so that you don't end up filling one home screen only to realize that you don't need the four others and you have no way to delete them, which is a typical problem with stock launchers. Um, as you might perhaps you saw that I found this in the sort of the main settings or menu of Go Launcher instead of the preferences. So we might have to hunt this down a bit to find it, but if it's a common third-party launcher, it's likely that it has it. So let's see, click the wrong thing. Okay, so grid size is another very common feature. Grid size allows you to customize how many icons are visible on the screen. In other launchers, it might be called layout or columns and rows. But again, this is something that many stock launchers lack, that many third-party ones have. So right now mine's set to 8 by 10, which means that 80 icons are visible. And basically that controls a few different things. First of all, how many icons are visible on the screen. That's fairly obvious, but perhaps not as obvious is that it gives you more control over how large your widgets are, because if you're trying to resize the widgets, then it's going to be much easier to get the perfect size if you have 80 rectangles making up the screens instead of having 40, because if you have a 4x4 4x4 widget on a 4x4 screen, then you can't really change it much. If you have a 6x6 screen, then you can make it 4x4, 5x5, or 6x6, or even 4x6. So that's another very important feature to be aware of. You have another one in the same on the same screen here, which is screen orientation, because once you finish meshing with grid size, you will perhaps discover the reason why many stock launchers don't allow this, and that's because most Android tablets are widescreen, and once you turn those around from portrait mode to landscape mode or the other way around, then suddenly your 10 by 5 icons are going to be 5 by 10, and suddenly it's completely backwards from how you intended it to scale. And that's a big problem. So screen orientation, if available in your launcher, allows you to lock the orientation of your home screen to only only portrait or only landscape. So if you made a perfect landscape home screen but it doesn't look good in portrait, you can simply disable the ability to have it display in portrait and solve the problem that way. There are so many different settings in here that it would take forever to go through them all. But basically you can change all sort of things. Like in effects you can change the home screen transition that decides how the screens are going to animate when you flip from one to the other. So I had windmill right now, so let me go to shutter instead and go back. Then you have this completely different transition when you go from home screen to home screen. You also have different things that have to do with icons, icon size, colors, all sorts of things. This is why it would require so much time for me to actually go into detail, because even though I can explain the basics of widgets to you, there are just so many tweaks. Just as an example, let me add a widget called Circle Launcher. That one adds a completely different effect to any launcher. Let me see if there's even any way to get this. So this is a circle launcher. Let me see, how do I selected apps? I'm just going to add some random apps to it, like that. And then suddenly I have this button where if I click it I get this sort of dial, classic dial pad thing, ring style folder. That's just one of hundreds of thousands of tweaks that you can do to a launcher. So this has been a very, very basic introduction to launcher customization. I'm probably going to revisit this in the future. I'm sort of covered just part of it more in depth, but for now, if this is something that you want to learn how to do, I suggest just going online and looking at what other people have done, and don't be afraid to ask them how they did it. And as always, thank you for watching.